We interrupt for this update in the Gulf War. The BBC is reporting that Iraq has fired 5 Scud missiles at Saudi Arabia. That would be the first military response from Iraq since the Allies attacked hours ago. We will have a news conference from Prime Minister Jim Bolger in Wellington in about 15 minutes. At 6 o'clock tonight, 3 National News will have an hour-long special bulletin on the Gulf War with reports from leading news agencies around the world. Now we cross back to NBC and Tom Brokaw.
Defense Department briefing, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Colin Powell on your right, Defense Secretary Dick Cheney on your left. We're going away from there only to tell you that we now have on the telephone from downtown Baghdad, a hotel there, the very enterprising Bernard Shaw, representing the very enterprising CNN, which has been on the air tonight throughout the attack on Baghdad. Bernie, you're just fine, I gather. Everybody feeling secure in the hotel, and can you describe for us what's going on outside your window?
Yes, Tom, I'm fine. I'm sitting in a chair for a change. I've been crawling on the floor for the last 2-3 hours, and I should tell you that your colleagues from NBC, CBS, ABC, and those journalists who remain here on the ground are all down in the bomb shelter, and Ingrid on our staff tells us that all is well. There are babies down there and what have you. The skies of Baghdad are still black. There is nothing going on over our heads. As President Bush was speaking, off in the distance, the bombing runs continued. You could see the tracers going up, and you could feel the hotel rocking a little bit. But it's quiet right now, so quiet that very eerily, a short while ago, we heard a rooster crowing, if you can believe that.
How many attacks were there? Did they come wave after wave, or was there just the first big attack and it continued on?
The operation was carried out with a wave after wave assault on command and control centers and anti-aircraft batteries. And Peter Arnett, my colleague here, along with John Holloman, Peter reported at least seeing at least 3 ground surface-to-air missiles take off in the distance.
And you did not see them, I gather, hit anything. We've had no reports here of any American casualties. Peter Arnett, who is a seasoned combat reporter, of course, from Vietnam, he did not see those surface-to-air missiles hit anything.
No, Tom, Peter and John Holloman are here, so if you want to direct a question to them, I can pass the mic on. Talking about sights during this attack, one of the eeriest things to hear is the engine of an F-15, and to see this sophisticated fighter streak across the skies and do what it came in to do, and then to see the trailing anti-aircraft fire trying to catch up, but obviously not hitting its target.
And can you describe for us, Bernie or Peter or John for that matter, the scope of the explosions? Were they enormous explosions, and were they mostly around the Baghdad airport, which is on the western edge of the city?
I'm going to put Peter and John on, but I'll tell you, some of the explosions rocked the hotel, and they got your attention. Hold on just a second. Here's Peter Arnett.
Peter?
Good evening, Tom.
Hi.
I figured that some of them had to be 2,000-pound bombs. They were within a mile of the hotel. They seemed to be trying to target the communication center. I guess the fact that we're talking to you means they didn't hit it. But there seemed to be direct hits on other buildings. Some of the bombs there could have been even cruise missiles coming in here. They just appeared out of nowhere. There were huge yellow and red explosions. But there were plenty of bombs in downtown Baghdad, and this area where we are, the government sort of center of Baghdad. Within an hour and a half, they started moving to the perimeter of the city, and I think we still see lights flashing maybe 15, 20, 30 miles away. Let me pass you on to John Holloman quickly.
All right, John.
You asked a question about the airport in Baghdad, and we believe, and we're not sure from where we are, that there might have been some explosions in that direction somewhere, but we don't have any idea specifically where any of these explosions hit, except some of the huge blasts that we saw in the vicinity of the communication center. Right now, I'll just tell you, I'm looking out the window, and the streets of Baghdad are pretty much back to normal, if you can be normal.
What does that mean?
Vehicles moving there.
What, you mean there are people out driving around the streets?
Tom, let me flick the switch so I can hear your question.
I was just, Bernie, there are people out driving around the streets of Baghdad. It is now, what, it's coming up, it's about 7 o'clock in the morning there, right? Close to?
It is 15 minutes to 6, and very few sensible people are behind the wheel of any kind of vehicle. During the raids, we saw one or two people, one or two vehicles, but believe me, there is no traffic as usual.
No. Bernie, I don't want to...
No ambulances. We've heard no sirens. No fire trucks, says John Holloman. And incidentally, only once did the air raid sirens sound in Baghdad.
All right. We are all curious at this end, as our audience as well, I know. Our telephone communications were interrupted from there. Satellite phones went down as well. How did CNN manage to stay on the air during all this? Are you connected through Iraqi television, and therefore we believe it is still up and operating? Bernie Shaw?
I'm just thinking about whether I want to candidly answer your question.
All right.
Tom, let me take a pass on your question, and the next time I see you, I'll explain profusely.
All right. I understand, and the next time we see each other, Bernie, it's on me. Trust me. It's a very enterprising Bernard Shaw, John Holloman, and Peter Arnett, who are not only enterprising but brave indeed, and we're grateful to them for sharing with us their first-hand accounts of what has been going on in Baghdad. They did elect to stay. They were able to get on the air. They have stayed on the air. CNN used to be called the little network that could. It's no longer a little network. NBC's Fred Francis now is standing by at the Pentagon with what we've heard now from Dick Cheney and Colin Powell. Fred?
Well, the sum total of all this, Tom, is that the initial reports, said Secretary Cheney, the preliminary reports from General Schwarzkopf in Riyadh, very, very positive indeed. He was asked about casualties, dead or wounded. He would not give specific casualties.